I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reverend Jarvis Wright will lead us in the invocation.
If you would bow your heads. Father, we thank you for this day that you have made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. We thank you, God, for the opportunity that you've given us just to serve our community. And we ask, God, that as we are in this meeting, that you would give us the wisdom, the strategies, the direction of how to not push our agenda, but yours.
Yes.
So, Father, we're asking, God, that your presence would preside over this meeting. And, God, we thank you in advance for all of the blessings that you have bestowed upon us and that you will bestow upon us. And we give your name glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. We'll start our presentations with graduation initiative.
I thought I saw Pam Brown somewhere. Oh, there she is. Never mind.
So good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Hinkey. I'm the school turnaround lead for the district, and I have with me Miss Pamela Brown as well, district graduation coach. And we are very excited here to share with you some updates to our graduation initiative. So you might remember last July, Tanya Whitehurst and Pamela Brown presented what was then our draft graduation initiative. And since then, we have been focused on making sure that we get it right. So I'm very excited to share with you that we have now a formalized, published version of our graduation initiative. And it is actually online. It's on our quick links page of our district webpage. And off to the right, there's graduation initiative. And then there you can see you can download the actual report. I gave you a hand copy of that, a hard copy of that. And the thing I really want to share with you today is that we are working on accountability for the things that we have said that we want to do and are currently doing. And so the two pieces I want to share with you are two different reports. One of them is actually published on the district website, and I've given you a hard copy as well. And that report is called the Implementation Status Report. And so what we've done is we've tried to develop a very user-friendly, easy-to-read way to share with community and district stakeholders where we are at with implementing certain strategies. So as you look at the key on the front page, 4 different colors there to identify what's been currently implemented, not implemented yet, full implementation, or in development. And so just to kind of point that out for you as you're looking, and again, for those of you who are here in the room or viewing, you can pull this up on the district webpage and look at it yourself. But if you look at Goal 1, Strategy 1D, for example, it says implement mentoring programs to support at-risk and off-track students at all grade levels. So we currently have that coded as in development because we have many programs in place that are supporting certain grade levels or subgroups, but not all. And so we continue to develop and try to build more mentoring partnerships. We currently have in place Check and Connect, Camp Osprey, North Point Youth, Boys to Men, and others in the district. But again, we haven't met that goal of being able to reach all grade levels and all groups of students who need that. If you take a look at Goal 4, another example, Strategy 4G. So this strategy is coded green for ongoing implementation. And it says develop tracking documents to monitor students who are at risk and off track. And that is something that is ongoing, something we developed this past year to be able to better manage our tracking systems. That's something Pamela has really worked on as graduation coach to make sure that all of our schools are tracking, and they're not always required to use the same things, but every school needs to have something so that we don't miss out on students who are in need or who are getting off track or
Is
off
that like
at
an
risk.
alert system?
Tripwire.
So this one is kind of more paper-based tracking. We are currently working on having a data platform. It's called EdFi, and that is in development as well, because it has not been rolled out to the school level in a way that is fully functioning. We've been using it at the district level, but that is going to be our online early warning system, and that's very exciting because the district has never had a really user-friendly early warning system.
We have one at the college that we use.
Yeah, so we will have that. That's part of year 2, and Pamela's going to mention it again when she talks about year 2. But we're excited to have that piece in place as well. And just one more example, if you're looking at Goal 5, Strategy 5B, says to develop expectations and timelines for school leaders to report EWS data to the superintendent at strategic points during the school year. And this is coded green for ongoing. This past year, we started district principal data conversations. And principals come in at strategic points during the year, and they share their data with each other and with district leaders. We have conversations about their data and where they're growing students and where they need support from the district and other things. And so that's an example of a strategy that we've implemented, and we are going to continue to implement. And the last couple pages there includes evidence and examples for all of the strategies that have either been started to be in develop or are currently being implemented. And the second report, I only gave you one page of it because it is still in development. It's going to be called the Targets and Outcomes Report. And this report is our quantitative report. So this is going to be, when we finish it, it's going to be a report that outlines all of the numerical targets we've set and how we're doing against those key performance indicators is what we call them. And so I've given you in your folders just the last page should be a sample of a one page from that report that looks at our graduation rate, the targets we've set over the course of the 5 years, as well as how we're currently doing and whether or not we've met the targets. And so the idea is that with any 5-year plan, and we have developed a 5-year plan that we believe is achievable, and with any 5-year plan, you can't implement everything in year 1. And so these two reports are very transparent in letting stakeholders know where we are at, what we have started, what we have not started, and then how we are doing at actually making the targets, achieving the targets that we've set. So now I'm going to ask Pamela to share a little bit more about the exciting things that are happening, just a few of those things that are happening in year 2.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Pamela Brown, and I'm sharing about year 2 of our graduation initiative. During the 2016-2017 school year, we focused on course performance. We looked at things like credit recovery, grade point average, ACT and SAT college prep, and 3rd grade reading intervention. In year 2, we are continuing with course performance, and we're adding attendance as a district focus. For the 2016-2017 school year, we had 70% of our students meeting the attendance rate threshold of 90%. This means that 70% of our students missed fewer than 18 days during the school year. Unfortunately, this also means that 30% of our students were chronically absent, which our district defines as missing 19 or more days during the school year. Our long-term district goal for attendance is a 90-90 target. We want 90% of our students to attend 90% of the time, which means students would miss less than 18 days during the school year and not be considered chronically absent. In the fall of 2016, our secondary schools participated in a chronic absenteeism study with the University of South Florida. This data generated conversations around district strategies to address attendance. Our schools are already brainstorming solutions and planning for ways to address improving attendance for all students. They will address communication, messaging, awareness, and recognition. Principals and assistant principals will receive more training on attendance this week on June 8th. New for the 2017-2018 school year, our new Putnam County School District graduation logo. 100% graduation is our business. And we want to use that logo and make that a part of every conversation. 100% graduation is our business. New CTE course, Advanced Manufacturing Technology. We're going to partner with NEFEC, as Jonathan stated, for a user-friendly early warning system, EdFi, to monitor our early warning data, increase data monitoring of attendance at both the school and district levels, our new Mosley Avid Academy. We're also implementing Avid at C.H. Price Middle School, and new at all three comprehensive high schools, Crescent City, Interlochen, and Palatka High School, will be a new advanced placement computer science course. Also, the Jobs for Florida Graduates curriculum course. This course was made possible with the support of a grant to hire a teacher to support the Jobs for Florida Graduates curriculum to teach 50 students at each school that curriculum. This teacher will also support the school-wide initiatives aligned with our graduation initiative. I would like to end with this quote from an unknown author. When a kid graduates, it's not only that kid and his or her family that wins, our community wins. Thank you.
I've got a couple of questions.
Okay?
Pam,
Yes.
looking at next year's senior class in each of our three high schools, not
QI.
really thinking about QI right now, though. Do you have any idea how many seniors are not on track for graduation?
Yes.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we are in
what they're
great
doing.
shape with that, because what we did this school year is we took that data and put it on paper for our students, just like we did our seniors. And so we already put that on paper. And because of the implementation of the school day SAT, that has been a huge help. And we use Khan Academy to have our students practice for the SAT and the ACT. And so as students practice for SAT and ACT, and then we have the school day testing, we do it for seniors in October, and we do it for juniors in March. So we have had a number of students to pass that test to get the concordant score to cover them for FSA. So in case they don't pass FSA, they're already covered.
Right.
So we're already saying that they're on track because they already have a concordant score to cover them for FSA.
Right.
So at this time, I'll just use Palatka High as an example. We only have about 25 students who are off track in reading and less than 10 who are off track in math.
That's incredible.
Yes.
What about credit-wise?
We have a few students who are off track credit-wise, but we have more students who are off track with grade point average.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we're working on
With credit
some credit
recovery and-
recovery. We have those students in the credit recovery lab this summer.
And
Okay.
so the conversation has occurred with the student, the teacher that will have them next year, and possibly the parents, so we
With-
can watch them and
Right.
monitor them as they move along.
Well, we have them now in credit recovery this summer
Oh,
to
awesome.
work on that. So if they work on recovering those credits this summer to improve their GPA, they'll start the school year with a better GPA, and they won't have that much of a problem working on it during the school year. And then we will have those conversations. And we're also, because of the graduation initiative, we've also looking at what worked and what didn't work as from a graduation coach initiative, from the graduation initiative as a graduation coach, and saying, let's do this earlier for these students.
Right.
And let's have these meetings earlier. So I plan on having some meetings earlier with parents, teachers, students, guidance counselors, and we're already putting those things in place and looking forward to having the highest graduation rate we can possibly have.
you're gonna-
I plan on working myself out of a job.
You're going to do that, as long as you have adults that know who these children are by name and can put a face with them, you're going to improve.
Yes.
I mean, we went through that before, although I was fortunate enough to get workforce development dollars to help build the program, but that has since declined and we don't receive those anymore, but you're on the right track.
Pam, would you mention the slogan again, the graduation initiative slogan?
100% graduation is our business.
And that slogan actually came about and was voted on our 3 superintendent advisory council meetings, and that's from the community. That's not something that the district came up with. Our business community is way behind what we're doing on our graduation initiative because it has a direct impact on jobs, the economy. So everybody's in tune to seeing us be successful in our graduation rate initiatives. Thank you guys for.
So we'll take care of those students that may possibly need a waiver down the road. This will already be taken care of prior to a week or a month before graduation.
Yes,
but those are,
we have plans in place
Waivers are
to,
different.
to look at anything that may have come up
But
right
then
here at the
won't.
end of the school year before graduation. We're taking a look at all of that right here during the summer and at the beginning of the school year so that we won't run into that again.
And any of excuse me, Kathy has something.
no, there you go.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention this, when you talked about Khan Academy and helping with the SAT prep, a lot of the transcripts I get in from high schools around the state, that I get in at the college, have a half-credit course in ACT, SAT prep. And I know that probably depends on allocations, and that's really tight right now. But when I go in and look at those students' scores, they seem much higher than, the student that hasn't been in that course. And most all of them had the concordant score for the FSA.
On average, students who practice with Khan Academy raise their score by 100 points. If they did at least 20 hours of practice on Khan Academy, they raise their score at least by 100 points. And so I encourage them to practice at least 20 hours, and they can either get that passing score or either raise their score if they're trying to get into a certain college, because we're not only doing it to get them a passing score, we're trying to
Right.
do it to get them college-ready scores so that they can get into the college of their choice.
Well, maybe one day we can have that half-credit course and
Yes.
get them all ready.
And I will share with you all that the Jobs for Florida Graduates course, we will be putting our hot list students, which are those students that we will watch from the first day of school to the last day of school to make sure they make it to graduation.
Have credits,
In
GPA,
those,
and
we will put them in that course, and they will have the opportunity to participate in Khan Academy through that course, and so they'll have a better opportunity to do that.
Have those teachers been hired at each of our high schools?
Yes.
Okay.
I like the NEFEC, Ed Fine Tripwire approach, that this happens and you get a red flag or a star, you've got something you need to do, because that helps any teacher catch them as they go through it.
That's, we call it early alert at the
Early alert,
college.
however you
Yeah.
want to call it, but I would urge you to talk with the superintendent and maybe reread the legislative language on what constitutes a graduate and see if there's any language that might help us as a county that could enable us to count more graduates because of circumstances that we have here. There may be ways to do that. That's one of the problems we've found in the past, is that once we get the graduation rate up, they change the parameters that constitute what it constitutes to be a graduate, and then you drop back down, and it's just something we need to kind of stay on top of, and
Yes, we definitely want to sustain our growth. Yes.
I think you will do that.
This is wonderful news.
I have one more, I have a
Oh,
question.
forgot Kathy had a question.
Pam, you mentioned something about partnering with NEFAC.
Yes.
I heard it, but I was making a note about something else, so I didn't hear the whole thing. Would you explain that to me? What you said?
That's the platform that we'll be using, the EdFi platform that, the
Okay,
district, yes.
that's
That
from,
we'll be able to
that was
use.
developed by NEFAC for
Yes,
the
to use to
districts.
monitor our early warning systems, and we'll be able to log in and see, just where our students are.
And I'd like to make a comment, you know, when we, you weren't here, Ms. Gilliard, but we approved the allocations for the graduation coaches. I was erroneously under the impression that the DOE had told us we had to do this. And then after we did the allocations, we approved the allocations, I found out, no, it was a recommendation. And I thought, well, that's a bunch of baloney and we're gonna get rid of that. But I am amazed at what you've accomplished already. You're way above your target.
Yeah, thank you.
And I can see that 100% in 5 years is attainable based on your goal and your history. I'm excited about what you're doing. I really am.
Yes,
And
I was sharing with the lady back in the room that in December, when the score comes out, you all might hear me screaming and running.
I want to see that.
I've seen you scream and run through this building.
make sure somebody gets it on video.
Now, you knew not to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I really am happy they came.
Okay, the second presentation has been postponed to a later date. So
Yes,
we'll
next
move
board
on to
meeting.
our public comment section. We only have 2 public comments, but let me remind you, you've got about 3 minutes, and you need to come up to the podium, state your name, your address. And the first one is TJ Smith to speak about Florida Virtual School.
TJ Smith, 110 Cat Bay Lane. Thank y'all for letting me come up here today. We're asked to always come with solutions instead of problems. The school time thing is kind of where this idea came from. I was wondering if the board administration could make one concession and let our kids do their 7th period class Florida Virtual. Florida Virtual, we're already requiring them to take one anyway to graduate. So if they were able to take that class as their 7th period class, maybe it would let a bigger majority of the opposition kind of soften to it a little bit. It seems like probably half the county is for it and half is against right now, but if you won over another
Yeah.
That solves that
10, 15, 20%, you'd have a lot of the county that liked it.
That's a great
Done a little bit of research,
We've already talked.
and it seems like it'll cost the school an hour per student of pay for losing that hour of them being in the classroom. But I wonder if some of that will be made up by the extra time teachers will have in the last to spend more one-on-one with their students.
Oh, you mean this for every student?
for every student.
No. Only for the students, here we go, that are able to walk home, ride a bike, get picked up, drive, whatever.
They'd all find a way, TJ.
Not all students will be able to do it, but if you had
I would recommend
20% or 30% that could do it, then it may answer some of the questions for ones who are worried about who's going to watch their little ones, or the kids that are trying to get off to go to work or sports, or my issue is I'm trying to steal every hour I can with my son while I have him. I really think it would show flexibility and compassion from the board, school system, administration. If a little concession was made, even if somebody doesn't take you up on the offer,
Right,
it shows that there's an offer, being made. And my thought also is on the part of the safety issue is, we would never know if it actually saved a kid from harm. We would never know. But if it did, one kid would make up for the little bit of effort it would take to possibly do that. All I'm asking is to see if you guys would possibly consider that.
We'll consider
and,
everything.
Yeah, see if maybe that would work. Thank y'all.
I think our goal is always to be flexible, TJ, and, that's certainly a good idea that we can look into. I think it would depend on a lot of things about which students would qualify, but it's a good
Well, it's
idea.
also the schedule.
Yeah.
You know, they have to take this and they have to take that, and they have electives they want to take,
Right.
and then to get that last period off every day for the job or the
Right.
sport. And I want to help accommodate church on Wednesday and babysitting the little ones and all that. And it sounds like a good idea, but we'd ask the superintendent
there's
to
a
look
lot of
into
things
the
we'll have to look
Right.
at.
feasibility. I don't know how it works, you know, at the school level, and that we'd have to hear back
You know, and
from
some
the
of them may have dual enrollment then. You know, it's
Sure.
all gonna need to be
Sure.
looked at.
I mean, mine's 4 classes ahead already, but I'd like them to stay classes ahead. So, you know, but I don't know. I thought that might be an answer, and like I said, we're always asked to come with a possible solution.
Well, I think
instead of an
the
issue.
proper thing to do would be for us to just ask the superintendent to come back with, to investigate it with the instructional team and come back with us a recommendation on whether we can do this or not.
And when I do reports today, I'm going to address that today, so.
Okay,
Oh,
during the
okay, good.
reports.
So you have
Thank
to
y'all.
stay for the whole meeting.
all right.
Thank you, TJ, for your
Thank you very
suggestion.
much.
Next, Coach Ron Dennis.
Coach,
Well, he was a coach the whole time I was in high school.
that was a number, 00.
When does that clock start?
That's your
Just
IQ.
go. I
go.
didn't set it on TJ, I completely forgot, so.
Oh, really? I
I'm only
noticed that.
giving you 1 minute.
Just don't preach a sermon up here.
I'm trying
Good,
to.
1 minute then.
Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Chairman, Chairwoman, I don't know what you call it, but anyhow, I certainly
Chairwoman
appreciate the
will work.
opportunity. Now, I know the word is out a little bit about what I'm here for. Let me say this much. One of the things you get into when you start renaming facilities, particularly athletic facilities, people always want to look at wins and losses and things of that nature. Well, I'm not here for that. We're not going to be talking about how many games a particular coach won or how many games a particular coach lost. When 2 or 3 of the guys sitting out here came up with this idea several weeks ago, and since I wasn't at the meeting, I got, as usually happens, I got nominated to be up here to do this. But anyhow, one of the things that, if you can think back in time, and this is a pretty serious subject, people, back in 1968, and again, I'm going to be off a year or two on certain things. Back in 1968, yeah, 50, anyhow. Integration, okay? I believe at that point in time, I believe they called it token integration. They started out gradually and so forth, and my first year in teaching was actually in Hastings, and that was a rough year, people. I'm going to tell you right now. It was really, really rough. After that, spent a couple of years in the military and then came back out, and things had started, getting a little bit better. And then the plan came about in the mid-'70s to combine Palatka Central, I guess it was, Palatka Central High and Palatka South High. And the thought in a lot of people's minds was this thing is not going to work. And remember, we're talking way back in the day. Well, let me say this, and I'm here to ask and I know you can't vote on it today, but I'm here to ask you to name the field. And remember, I am not talking about the stadium, okay? Veterans Memorial Stadium will always be there. We're talking about naming the field itself where these young men came together and competed after a couple of men who were very, very critical to the success that we had in merging the two schools. I'm talking about Billy Bennett and Willard Cooper. Now, those two men came together as one because basically someone had to be the head coach, okay? And we all know who that head coach ended up being, which meant that the other one had to have an attitude that went so far in the realm of unselfishness that it's just hard to believe. But everybody knows Coach Cooper, everybody knows Coach Bennett, and of course, I guess Willard's passed now, right? Yes. And but when Willard was with us, he was one of the strongest-willed men that I think I've ever known. I just had an opportunity to serve with him on a coaching staff, as did some other people out here. He and Billy Bennett worked together. I can recall the first spring practice we had for the football team in 1976 before the school opened, and I guess in 77, 78. And what an absolute incredible-looking bunch of kids. I mean, and there were rumblings about, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this parent's not going to let her son play with this, and so forth. And Willard and Billy got together. They said, look, what we're going to do, guys, we're going to play football. If you want to play football, here are the rules. And they pretty much stood by those rules. And were there incidents in the hallways and things of that nature? Yes, there were. However, in the long run, nothing went further towards making certain that the transition with those two schools merging in 1977 and 78, I will say to the day I go down that not only in Palatka, but in other schools throughout the United States, high school coaches were a critical component in making sure that that whole process worked. And while again, we're not talking about wins, we're not talking about losses, we're not talking about years served, we're not talking about, in this instance, we're not talking about, who spent the most time where. But what we are talking about is recognizing a couple of people who contributed in a lot of ways that a lot of people don't know about towards making that very difficult time. It was a very difficult time in Putnam County Schools history, towards making it work. And so the proposal is to, and again, it's not the stadium, please, it's not the stadium. We wouldn't touch that but the field that these young men played on, the proposal is that you consider in a couple of weeks, whenever you can, that the field at Veterans Memorial Stadium be named the Bennett Cooper Field at Veterans Memorial Stadium. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Wait a second. Do any of the board members have any questions? I would like to, if it's pleases the rest of the board, to have it put on the agenda for our next meeting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to place that on the agenda for your consideration at the June 20th meeting. And Ron, thanks for presenting that, and
So much.
all the folks who joined you today, and would ask
By
that.
the way, if there's
yeah.
any cost incurred, Ben Bates and Jim McCool said they'd take care of that.
Karen Hughes will help too.
Yeah.
Jim McCool said he'd pay for it all himself, yeah.
Ron?
Can I say what you just said?
Yeah.
No, that's just ours.
You can't,
No, I
you
wanna
gotta,
hear it.
I wanna
She
hear it,
can't
that's
talk
public
private.
record.
That's sunshine. I mean,
That,
with
she
him
can't
and
talk
myself.
private up here.
No, I'll let the complaint go.
Okay.
Sure you don't want your name on the stadium.
Ron, could I get you, before you sit down, could I get you to maybe just introduce the gentlemen that are with you today? I think that's very
I'll start
important.
over here with the guy who's, got the glare going right now off his head. Richard Rich.
Richard Ridge.
Ray,
Yep, got on the maroon, wearing the maroon and white from back before.
Richard
Richard
Gray.
Sweet Owens,
Yeah.
Jim McCool, Ben Bates. I'm sure there are other people here
Steve
that I,
Overturf, Karen
who,
Hughes.
is that Mayor Hill back there? Terrell Hill's here.
Terrell
Thank you,
Hill.
Terrell.
Oh, Bill Warren, yeah.
Bill Warren. All of these people have been talking about this, and it's, hopefully we
I
can
think
get her
it's
done.
a wonderful idea.
I
think
played
y'all
for,
should thank
I
Ben
played
and
for Coach
Jim for
Bennett,
doing
and I was well accustomed to Coach Cooper, and I always enjoyed
Fine
both of
man.
them very
Worked
much.
for my daddy for a long
I couldn't think of any finer people to consider.
Well,
Hey.
it sounds, I'm sorry, David, I thought you were done.
I can't think of any finer people to consider, given the request from the community, and it's just, they did, I was a student, and as Sandy and Jane and all of us were during the integration periods, and once it became full-blown in
I
the
straightened you,
mid-seventies.
it worked out.
Yes, you followed me and
I straightened you.
straightened me out there. Anyway, you and a lot of others, but certainly they did a lot to straighten me out too. So thank you so much for bringing that proposal.
I hope y'all come back in 2 weeks. We'll have that on the agenda, and let the board consider that. And I just want to echo the fact that these two gentlemen represent the symbols of those two schools coming together.
Yes.
And we wouldn't be where we are today had it not been for those two gentlemen. So,
Well,
thank you.
certainly let the families know
Oh, absolutely.
that
Yeah.
once this is done, the families of Coach Cooper and Coach Bennett, definitely.
Yep.
McCool.
And
It's your job.
I wasn't here then, I'm not from here. I try to talk like
Really,
y'all,
with that accent?
but I can't. But anyway, I appreciate the history lesson. We didn't have integration where I'm from, but we heard about it and read about it and, whatever. It was in the news. Seriously, though, I have a dear friend, Dietrich Champanet, that I heard it from her side. And I can only imagine what it was like. So I'm all on board for honoring these men by naming the field after it. And I think it's a wonderful gesture. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on with the consent agenda. Ms. Jorgensen,
I have nothing to remove.
Mr. Buckles.
Nothing.
Ms. Gilliard.
I'm good.
Someone make a motion.
I make a motion, we accept the agenda, as proposed.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now we need to go out of regular session into emergency session.
You get me every time.
Oh, no,
You need to
David
hit
gets
that.
me, you got me every time. It scares me to death. Okay, our emergency items. Now, what additional items? Was that under the consent agenda? The
Yes.
two, okay, so,
It's just the 1 and 2 on the under.
okay, under the emergency items, the first one is additional work hours days for Crescent City High School football coach. Justification, explanation, time sensitive.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no, motion passes. And then the second one is an overnight trip by the CL Overturf Sixth Grade Center FFA students to Orlando on the 12th through the 17th. Justification, explanation, time
I
sensitive.
move we approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes. Okay, we'll go out of emergency session, back into regular session. I told you didn't need to worry. Okay, where are we?
L, discussion, new business.
Oh my gosh, we're already there?
Yes.
That was quick. We have under discussion, Lift Putnam Education Foundation, board member list approval. And I know we had that, it was on our, is there any discussion about that?
Who's here? Oh, nobody to speak for?
Mr. Paget talked to Ms. Crawford earlier today, but I don't think he stayed.
Well, one of the things that he talked about with me,
Another
Yes,
member?
and I should have made that clearer. You do need to designate a board member.
okay, one of the things that he talked about me was that Lift Putnam board would like to have a rotating
1 year term.
one-year term from one of us each term. And so Nikki will be going off.
I'll make a motion that we
No,
put
she's
her
coming
back.
off.
Yeah, she's
already-
coming off.
Right.
Okay.
Just to clarify, July 1st to June 30th, the
Yes.
way the
Yes.
fiscal year goes,
Yes.
et cetera?
Yes.
Okay, I'll volunteer to go on.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
That's fine.
Okay.
I nominate Ms. Jorgensen.
1 year.
Second. Yes, it's 1 year.
Okay.
Motion and second.
Okay.
You gonna take a,
Oh, yeah, that's okay. Motion passes.
all right.
All right. I will let Mr. Paget know, or you can let Mr. Paget know.
Okay, did that include approving the board members that he presented in that letter? as
Oh, I
well?
guess we need to
No, we
restate
need
that
to do that
motion.
one.
Well, just make a motion
name.
to approve those.
I make a motion that we approve the board members he submitted and Ms. Jorgensen for 1 calendar year will serve.
Second.
Fiscal year.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. Okay, believe it or not, we are at the time that we give our board member reports.
Close to a record.
I'll start with Mr. Buckles.
I don't have anything written down per se, other than I really enjoyed watching the graduation ceremonies, and I have just some casual observations in what we've been through in this year. I did talk to the superintendent the other day about finding some way to educate the community better on what we do and how Florida school law impacts decisions that are made on personnel reductions, not per se a reduction in force, but how we take recommendations, how they are proposed and how we try to let principals manage their schools within a manner that best meets the needs of their children that attend their schools. Likewise with safety, you can't ever be safe enough, but I don't think people really understand why our resource officers are there with a gun and a badge and handcuffs, and why they handcuff students sometimes when they break the law. But it is necessary, and it's a good thing, and I do hope that the superintendent, and he was amenable to it, and I'm sure we'll study it with staff. We'll find a way to, maybe we could do some type of back-to-school question and answer, or have the board attorney respond in kind in a column in the paper or something, just to let people know what it is that, it is very complicated. It's not like, oh, you can just let a child, crack a chainsaw and walk down a hallway. There are so many things that can happen that you just can't pick and choose you can make discretionary decisions on some things, but some things you just have to draw the line. And I think that our board attorney would be very good at trying to put together some of the superintendent's thoughts on that. And I look forward to, let's just letting people know why, we just don't wake up one morning and come here to a meeting and say, we're going to remove all these people from their positions and make them mad. And, that's what we do. There's reasons for it.
Right.
But that's my concern. I think we're going to have a great summer and a better year coming up. And listening to the graduation coaches, I'm very optimistic about this coming school year.
Me too.
Yes.
And that's me. That's good.
Ms. Gilliard?
Yes, I too want to commend all of the high schools for an exceptional graduation ceremony. The speeches were just great. The singers, one of them kind of, is echoing in my head, where the young lady admitted that before she had a change of heart, and a teacher, kind of impressed upon her to change. She said that when she made her teacher cry, remember at Crescent City? And she said, I decided at that time that I needed to take my education seriously and not, do these things and stop others from learning. Well, that young lady ended up with the highest GPA at Crescent City High, and I just thought that was magnificent. Beautiful speeches the young people gave, and I too would like to commend Palatka Daily News for publishing the pictures of these graduating students from theirs. I know you may not believe it, but I have my picture from 46 years ago when you ran our class. They even did Hastings back there in the day, and I have some of those. I really do. I honestly do. And how you put our students in there that have achieved academically as well as with the athletics. For all of those that sponsored banquets, sports banquets for our student athletes, Babes, the Theobald Award for our football players and our baseball players and our softball players. All of these things help us to bond with our children in the district and pull our parents along to let them know that we are in the business of giving their children the best we have to offer. And the final thing is to all of those organizations that provided scholarships for our students to further their education. At each of the commencement services, our superintendent quoted the number of scholarships that were given at each school and the amount of monies that are being poured into our young people. And he challenged them that they not forget about Putnam County, but that they come back. And so I am encouraged, not because I'm on the board, but because I believe now we're all pulling in the same direction, even when we have to make some decisions that may not set well at first with everyone. We trust that that we feel we're making them in the best interest of our children and our communities and our stakeholders. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Jorgensen?
I really don't have too much to say, but I did attend the administrative training for a few hours this afternoon, and It's amazing. I don't know if I'll ever go on Facebook again. Although his point, it was an attorney that did this all day. I don't know how anybody sat there for it all day, but the point was, oh, you can all go on Facebook now. You know how to do it. But he just scared me into not going on Facebook at all. It really is a litigious society. People suing people, and the difference between slander and libel and opinion, and it's off the wall, and new laws are being written as the cases go to court. And we really do have to understand the difference between opinion and fact and all of that when we put something out on a blog or in an email or anywhere. It's out there for the world to see forever.
I've had
Since
people ask me on Facebook, and then I have answered, much to the dismay of my wife, but sometimes you have to, they don't understand the Sunshine Law. Even that is, you guys could read something that I'm thinking, and, there's very, you're right, Kathy, it's scary.
And what we need to make sure of, since you attended and the leadership team knew that this was good for us, is to make sure that it gets back to our teachers, because they're on Facebook, and we would hate to see any of them get themselves into trouble or legal matters because they didn't know. So we want to make sure that that is disseminated.
Well, his one message was to be cautious, but the other message was we need to use Facebook. It's there for our use to promote graduations and positive things, a picture of that student. And so it's got wonderful power, but you have to be careful.
Yes.
And your opinion, even though you think it's an opinion, might not be an opinion, and just get flyers out, church potluck, whatever, and use it because it's a wonderful tool. And as a district, we can use it as a tool. But personally, be very careful. Just be very careful what you say. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, I'd just like to reiterate about graduations. I attended 5 of them this year, and every one of them was special and spectacular, and the kids were wonderful, and it's just one of my favorite things to do every year. I know that, golly, the administrative, leadership team and the teachers and everybody have hit the ground running this summer, and they're planning wonderful things for next year, and they're in trainings to learn as much as they can throughout the summer, and that will only enhance our students' capabilities throughout the year. And one last thing, I've got to get with Sharon Cormany to set up dates for the rest of our master board training and find a place to hold those. So we'll be doing that in the near future, and I'll be sharing it with y'all. Okay? Mr. Attorney.
I'll keep my remarks brief, but everything is going well in the legal department.
Very brief. Mr. Superintendent?
I too went to the administration training today, and before you got there, it was kind of interesting. We had some of our volunteer administrators actually get interviewed on camera, and we wanted to help train them in how to talk with the press. That's an important part of their job, and we want to make sure that they knew what to say, what not to say. So it was great practice for them. So this entire week, our school-based administrators are going through intense training in different aspects. So again, it's going to help develop them as better leaders. Again, I want to congratulate our high school principals and their staff for really some awesome and very dignified graduation ceremony. So congratulations. A lot of work goes into making that happen. A lot of people involved. So congratulations to all the schools. I want to point out to the board, we had talked about scheduling a workshop before our next board meeting at 2 o'clock to talk about EDGE, the EDGE High School. So if we could put that on your calendar for 2 o'clock. And we actually, the Madam Chairman and myself met with the EDGE administrator and chairman of their board, and we talked about maybe having a workshop and talk about some of the issues they're having. So, and at 3 o'clock, on the 20th, we want to have a short 15-minute workshop on our financial situation, and Ms. Odom's aware of that, just to update you on what our finances. As you know, this week, the legislature's back in special session, so we should be getting hopefully some better news from the legislature by the end of the week. So we'll update you on all that on the 20th.
Thank you, God.
Finally, I want to thank TJ for coming up and addressing the board. I am very sensitive. Our staff is very sensitive to the school time change, and we've talked to a number of parents, heard a lot of concerns. So I want to offer this to our communities. We are scheduling, with our principals present, we are scheduling 3 separate meetings in each of the areas of the county for the sole purpose of doing what you're talking about, meeting some of the needs of our parents, helping them adjust to the school times. We don't take it lightly that does imposition a lot of people, even though the big picture is we want to improve our schools, but we do want to be sensitive to our parents' needs. I'd like you to write these down, and if we could, maybe we'll publicize these also, but after the board meeting on the 20th, any parent who has a student in the central area, Palaca area, our principals are going to be here to answer questions at 7 p.m. on June 20th. And we'll limit that to an hour. But again, we want them to have the opportunity to ask our principals questions about after-school care, some of the questions that TJ brought up about students who work after school. What are some of the schools doing to address that? And, the ideas that you brought up, we'll let them entertain those questions. So any questions that parents have, I've already put the principals on notice to be here for those schools in the Palaca area on the 20th. On the 22nd at 6 p.m., the west area at Interlochen High School Media Center from 6 to 7 p.m., people in that area can come there, and the principals from those schools will be available. And then finally, on June 26th at Crescent City High School Media Center at 6 p.m., people in the south will be able to come and ask principals in those schools questions about school times and what they can do to help them. So we're trying to be sensitive to that, but we're full steam ahead and making this work. And maybe somebody from transportation, Rodney, if somebody from there might be available to answer questions about pickup times and routes and so forth, that would be helpful. Okay.
Give me the time again for Crescent City, June 26th.
Crescent City is 6 p.m. on the
That's-
26th,
okay, got it,
and the west area is also 6 p.m. on the 22nd.
got it.
And this will be advertised in the
Yes,
newspaper and
we
on
will.
our website.
Absolutely.
Facebook, our Facebook page.
Every meeting we have, we'll advertise it.
And if you parents would help spread the word too, TJ,
Yeah.
if y'all help spread.
And again, that is a question answer. It's not, are we going to change the times? That's not the point. The board has voted on these times. We want to answer questions about how we're going to make it work, how we're going to help you. Okay?
Superintendent, I appreciate that. I think that's very, very a worthwhile thing to do, even if not many people show.
Mm-hmm.
At least we've had the chance to do it. We might even record it or whatever, so people can see there was an actual event televised or advertised to do that, because I don't think people believe it sometimes.
Well, we can talk to our media department.
Oh, whatever,
Make-
you
make it
know.
happen.
Live?
Well, I don't know about, it's
It's
just.
recorded.
That's scary.
No, it'll be old,
It'll be old.
yeah.
That's all I have there.
I just, and I would encourage you to continue to forge that partnership with the sheriff's office and the community on the bus stops and things. And I think we're making some good ground out there. You've got people thinking about it. I mean, people didn't like the decisions at first, and there was some complaining, but now as they gear up, we're going to have to continue to work with law enforcement to ensure that our areas of concern are.
I've talked to Mr. Weaver about that, and he's going to talk to the sheriff's office about, especially those area deputies, zone deputies, knowing where the bus stops are, so they can kind of have a presence there.
Know where the problems are.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Well, I'm going to say this publicly, and I probably shouldn't, but when
Do
I
it
went on
anyway.
the bus ride, the school bus ride, she said that cars pass them all the time and that the West Putnam deputies aren't out and about. while the routes are being done. They're taking their break at Nana's
That's
for
what
breakfast.
Superintendent-
Yeah.
So we're going to draw the attention to that.
We need to, well, I'm hoping I just did.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm sure you did. Jorgensen, I'm sure you did. Anything else?
No.
Okay,
All hearts and minds
meeting is
satisfied.
adjourned.
Thank you.